My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. Welcome, everybody. Today we have a really awesome show for you guys. I've got Linda here, who's going to tell us about her encounters and some of her experiences, and a little bit about her research group, the Lost Cryptids Conservatory, which is very interesting. I hope you guys enjoy. What got you into the subject?
Probably my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
That I had an encounter when I was younger. I was probably around 14. I also am from Oklahoma. I was born in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad was in the Air Force. He's from Michigan here, and my mom was from Oklahoma, so he was stationed down there in Altus Air Force Base. And so I was born in Oklahoma. My sister was born in Oklahoma. We traveled off and on, back and forth between Michigan and Oklahoma. We lived overseas for a couple years. But we used to come up here to Michigan every summer for summer vacation. And here in Midland County, that's where I had my sighting.
Uh-huh.
It was summer vacation. We were here. It was in July. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was a sunny afternoon. And we were taking turns riding a mini bike. My cousins, there's like a whole pack of them. There's like two boys and two girls that are close in age, close to my age at the time, and they had a mini bike in the backyard, and they were riding it. We were taking turns riding it, like back in the woods. We had just got there. In general, we would stick around for a couple days and visit with the grandparents, and then we would all take off and go up north to the Upper Peninsula, where we camped for about 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did pretty much every summer. So we were riding the mini bike back there, and it was my turn to ride the mini bike, and I got on it with my step cousin, Kathy. She was actually driving the bike. I was sitting behind her, and we took our turn back there in the woods, and we went down. There's like a straightaway path, and then you get to this. There's like a big turnaround. It's like a big sandy turnaround, I guess, like I want to say like the number 9. If you think about the number 9,
mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that, but with like woods and stuff on either side of the trail. And when you get into the turnaround, straight across the turnaround, there was these great big bushes and a lot of shrubs and trees. And when Kathy and I got into the turnaround, as soon as we hit the turnaround, the opening, right up straight ahead across on the other side of the turnaround, you could see there was this big face staring at us. All I could see was like from its head.
Uh-huh.
You couldn't see the body. The body was hiding behind a bush. And it just like happened so fast. The whole encounter probably didn't last more than a minute or two. I mean, if I think about it, it just happened really fast. I think we were both in shock. Kathy ended up dumping the bike over on us. I remember burning my leg on the muffler, but at the time, you don't really think about stuff like that. We both got up and we picked the bike up and got back on the bike, and then we got out of there. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happened. I mean, we got back to the house, and when we got off the bike, there were 2 other kids waiting to take the bike, and they took off on the bike. Nobody else said anything that day about seeing anything. I didn't say anything to the other kids. I think when I got back, I was kind of in shock. I did ask Kathy I remember when she was taking her helmet off, because we had to wear helmets on the mini bike. We weren't allowed to ride it without helmets. I asked her, I said, did you see what I saw back there? And she said she saw it, but she didn't want to talk about it. And she kind of started crying and went in the house.
Mm-hmm.
She was visibly upset over this. And little did I know at the time when all this occurred that Kathy and I were not the only ones that saw this on that property. Some of the other kids that lived there had sightings also, and were not sharing that information at the time, or telling each other about it. I found this out years later after an open discussion that my other cousin, she also saw this thing. Well, I say this thing, we don't know if it was the same one or if it was a different one, but the way that she described it, and from what I saw, it sounds like it could have been the same one. Mm-hmm. But she walked back there on foot in the woods back there. It's all woods. It's all wooded back there. And she saw it, and her brother saw it with a friend. They saw one picking apples off an apple tree. It was out in an apple orchard, and this was in the summertime, and they were walking down the road to go to the store on the corner, and they saw it out in the field in an apple orchard picking apples. And they thought it was a bear, and they stopped to watch it because it was a good ways off. Mm-hmm. It was far enough off from where he told me that you couldn't really make out any details. You could just see that obviously it wasn't a person, and they thought it was a bear. It was on two legs. But after it got an apple off one of the trees, it walked away, and it went to another tree and started getting apples off that tree. And he told me that's when they realized it was not a bear. So they kind of got nervous, and his friend that he was with, he just got really scared and said, well, I got to go home. I've got homework to do. And he took off and took off running down the road. So they hurried up and got out of there because I think they were, probably in shock. But so.
With what you saw, were you able to see any facial features, or was it too far away?
Oh no, I saw everything. It was. This was a bright, clear day. It wasn't cloudy out. I saw its face. I remember what the face looks like. It's like burned in my mind. I'll never forget what its face looked like. It had a big, wide, kind of like a flat nose. It had I remember, the biggest thing about it I remember is the eyes. The eyes were huge. It had really big, huge, round eyes that were set far apart. It had big lips, like a real long lip line, like a wide mouth. And it had hair all over its head, like the top of its head and the side of its head. It had long hair. I couldn't see any ears, because I guess I'm thinking the hair must have been covering its ears. The eyes were dark. I could not see, at the time, I wasn't close enough to see whether or not there were, whites in the eyes. I just remember the eyes looking like they were really dark color. It was dark. It was like a dark brown, probably almost black in color. And you couldn't see its teeth. It didn't have its mouth open. It wasn't baring its teeth at us. It didn't make any noise. It didn't scream. It didn't even move, and of course, this, like I said, this all happened really fast. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was, my mind could not really process. I was having trouble processing what I saw. Like when I got back to the house, We were afraid. I mean, I was afraid, but at the same time, I think I was also just kind of in shock because I didn't understand what had just happened. I didn't understand what I had just saw. I mean, I knew it was something I've never seen before, and I knew what it wasn't, but I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a bear. I've seen bears. I grew up, like I said, every summer we spent here in Michigan almost every summer. And my parents used to take us up to the dumps. In Paradise, they used to have the dumps where you could go watch the bears come out at night,
Mm-hmm.
at twilight. Of course, they've closed those down now. We can't do that anymore up there. But so I've been around bears. I've seen a lot of, black bears. They have black bears in Michigan. And I grew up watching Wild Kingdom, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I don't know if you've ever heard of that show, but
I have not.
yeah, that was a show that used to come on. This was back before they had cable TV, and internet and stuff like that. And that was just one of the shows that used to come on every week, and that's basically, it was all about animals. They showed a lot of cougars and bears and wildlife and stuff like that on that show. So that was one of the things we watched every week when it came on. So yeah, I didn't see a bear. It wasn't a bear. Everybody wants to say it was a bear.
Yeah.
My mom, when I finally told my mom about what happened, she's like, "Oh, you saw a bear." That's everybody's favorite answer.
Yes, everybody's go-to.
Yep, that's the go-to, is you saw a bear. Yeah, this definitely was no bear. So the whole thing was really weird, though, because after this happened, the next day, we all had to get, in our vehicles, and we all had to leave and go up to the Upper Peninsula for camp. And I kind of just forgot about it. Like, it kind of just got shelved in the back of my mind. Once we got to camp, I really didn't think that much about it again. In fact, I think it was, I'm not sure there's a term for it. I think because my mind could not deal with what had happened, I just kind of forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like put it in the back of my mind, and I didn't think about it again for years. And a couple of years ago, I joined a podcast, Wes Germer's podcast, SasquatchChronicles.com.
Mm-hmm.
I found it on the internet, and I started listening to Wes's shows, and there was a deer hunter on there from Michigan. I believe he was from Michigan. And when I started listening to his encounter, everything that happened to me kind of just came flooding back, and then I remembered everything. So it took me probably like 3 months or something before I actually got the nerve to contact Wes Germer to even tell him what happened. You have to think, there's a lot to think about before you do stuff like that.
Yeah.
My family, I had my cousins that were there that day, when this happened, they knew at this point, they knew what happened because we had all talked about it and talked about each other's, encounters with this thing, what we all saw. But I had not, at that point in time, I had not really told anybody else. Like I had not gone to my family yet. Like my brother or my mom and dad, and I had not told my sister or anybody about this. So it was kind of a tough decision for me to make, to come out in the open with this. There's a lot of ridicule involved, and there's consequences, I guess I want to say.
Yeah, there is.
It's sort of like if you, because of what you've experienced, you probably know that.
Yeah, I do. And I've And I've met a lot of hunters that they'll kind of sit and laugh at you and uh, think that you saw something else. And there are people out there who don't think very highly of the subject.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I get from that I hear from hunters is one of the biggest thing with that is, and even from people in my own family. I have relatives that I have cousins that hunt, and I mean he absolutely thinks, well, it's not real until I see it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a hunter, and he's hunted all his life, and he's never seen anything like that in the woods. So why hasn't he seen anything like that? That's the biggest thing I get from the hunters. I've been hunting for 40 years. I've been hunting for 50 years. I should have seen, if there was something like that out there, I should have seen it.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, they say they don't see anything, but sometimes it's something you actually have to look for to actually see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and with that in mind, I'm with a research group right now called the Lost Cryptids Conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
We're based out of Michigan. We're kind of scattered all over. It started in Ingham County. Blake Delshire, I'm sure I'll hear about it if I say his name wrong. Anyway, Blake started it. You can find the Lost Cryptids Conservatory on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And most of the people in my group are guys. There's a couple other ladies in the group. My friend Mary and my friend Sherry, they're sisters. And one of the things I like about going out in the woods with Sherry when we're out in the woods is she's not in a hurry. She's not in a hurry to get anywhere. Like when we're out in the woods walking, we like to kind of take our time and look around at stuff. And I think a lot of people miss. They say they don't see anything when they go out in the woods, but are they really looking and taking the time to look around?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And how often do y'all go out, your group?
Well, let's see. This last summer, we were pretty much out. I actually can only go out like every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I am a licensed nurse. I work in geriatrics. I've been in nursing for probably over 30 years. I went to Delta College, Delta University. So I actually work. I'm still working. I'm not retired yet, and I have to work every other weekend because in nursing you don't get to have every weekend off. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my group, they all try to, at least some of them try to get out every weekend, like in the summertime. This last summer we went out. We go all over the state. We've been to the UP, Washtenaw County, some of the southern counties. We recently had a conference. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dewey Lake Monster.
I have.
We just had a conference down there in Dewey Lake. It was the first annual Dewey Lake Monster Conference. That was our first conference we had. We think it went pretty well. We were happy with it. The people there are very nice in that town. Made us feel really welcome.
Are they going to have any more, or was that the only one?
We do plan on doing some more conferences this next coming spring and summer. I think for sure we're at least going to do 2 of them.
Okay.
I know the plans are in the works for it. I don't really have any details yet on those conferences.
Okay.
But we've got a large group right now. There's at least, I want to say probably, I'm guessing maybe around 15 of us by now. So we're getting a large group. We're growing.
Yeah. What kind of stuff do y'all encounter out in the field?
The thing about this group is we all have different backgrounds. We've all had our own experiences that before we joined up, everybody's had their own experiences. We have a member that he's actually, I'm not sure what you want to call it. I think people call it different names. Like the stick man, I think might be one of the names they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen the video? There's a YouTube video out where it shows a moose on the side of the road. Some people took a video. They were videotaping a moose, and this thing came out and it was creeping along the woods. It's white. And it's got real long legs and arms, and it's creeping on the ground.
Oh, okay.
The name escapes me right now for that, but I think he's had an encounter. He saw one of those. We've had just a lot of different stuff has gone on. We have a lot of howls and screams, and we found tracks, and we've casted tracks. And this last summer, I actually found. Well, they're telling me it was a knuckle print. And one of our research areas that we go to, we pretty much, we probably spend more time there. That's actually in Southeast Michigan. We spend more time there than we probably.
And do y'all ever have any encounters with Dogman?
This last summer, we were in an area up by Grayling, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
And we got one of the guys got a hit on his thermal. And that pretty much is that kind of describes what he saw.
Uh-huh.
Of course, this was at night, and they went back to a swamp, and it had the long snout, it had the ears,
Wow.
It was on two legs. That's about all you can make out, with the thermal at night. And right after that, they got out of there.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, we went out there to look for Bigfoot, and the guy got that on his thermal, and that was probably about 3 miles from our base camp at that time.
So not far at all.
No, not far at all. So we and then of course there's always the other things that we experience. Cougars. We got stalked by a cougar. We found out there was both a bear in the area and there was a cougar in the area. And the cougar actually came right up to the camp perimeter. One morning, one of the guys got up the next morning and found tracks, fresh cougar tracks right out in the trail on the base of our camp perimeter there. So you have to deal with that kind of stuff too when you're out there.
It sounds like they're pretty brave up there.
Yeah, that area is, I believe it's state forest, or it's either state or national forest in that area over by Grayling, in between Higgins Lake and Grayling. So a lot of the members, I want to say probably almost all of the members, have had at least one sighting of a Bigfoot in their lifetime, or I don't know how you say it, a sighting, an encounter. One of the guys actually, he was from the area, living in the area at the time up by Higgins Lake, and he had his daughters with him. His name is Bill Sowards, and he had his daughters with him, and he was out in the woods, and he saw one, I guess, run across a trail, and there was a wolf behind it. And it kind of looked like the wolf was, we don't know, we don't know if the wolf was with the Bigfoot or what exactly the story is on that, who's to know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But so that was kind of a Class A sighting.
Yeah.
He also found a stick structure up in the area where we were at. There was a big stick structure. You can find that on YouTube. It's rather large. It's a rather large, and it's intricate. You can see where it was woven. There's stuff woven in it. And there's a lot. This is a big enough structure that a person could actually climb inside it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff that it's made up with, the trees and stuff, they're way too big. You can see it. They're way too big for, people to pick up, for just a person to pick up. In fact, we were there and some of the guys thought they were going to try to pick up one of the logs because the structure is older now and it's starting to fall apart a little bit from what I understand. But yeah, it was impossible. You couldn't. Hard to explain.
Yeah.
Hard to explain stuff like that. You know, as being made by a person.
Uh-huh.
When you're dealing with something that heavy.
Especially out in the middle of nowhere where you can't really get any machinery to do it either.
Yeah, and the location where this is at, it's off a trail that goes back in the woods. It's kind of a 2-track, but the 2-track is old and it's all overgrown. So you can see that, you know, nothing's been back there. There's been no like heavy machinery back there or anything like that. You know, you can tell if something like that would have, you know, was back there. So just a lot of stuff like that. We've got a lot of recorded howls and screams, and our one area down south in southeast Michigan that we go to, they we think there's like a whole group of them down there, and when we go there to camp, they actually come right up to our camp perimeter there.
Wow.
And scream, and it's kind of funny because the last 2 times I've been there, I've gone there on a Thursday night, and some of us get there on Thursday night, some of us don't get there till Friday night, and I was there on Thursday night, and both times I was there on Thursday night, right at twilight, we've gotten a scream, and I've come to recognize the scream now. It sounds like it's the same one. So I call it the Grass Lake Screamer. I had to give it a nickname.
Yeah.
It comes up camp and it screams at us, and then what it's doing after that, we don't know, you know, because there's woods. We're completely surrounded by woods. It's like a ginormous farm. We're on a ginormous private property. It's like a 300-acre farm surrounded by state.
Y'all ever have stuff thrown at you?
Yeah, actually, yeah. The last time we were there this summer, 2 of us, Blake and I were out around the fire at night. Most of the camp had went to bed at this point. It's after midnight, and we got rocks or something thrown at us, and I saw eyes shine. One of the guys got out of bed and came out there, and he took off. They took off in the woods. Him and Blake took off in the woods. That's Gabe. Gabe and Blake took off in the woods to go out to retrieve a digital recorder, my recorder that had been placed out there earlier that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was left alone at the fire, and I saw, I don't know if you want to say eye shine or eye reflection, like from the light of the fire, mm-hmm. out in the woods. And it was, I admit I actually got scared, and I ended up going and sitting in one of the cars and waited for the other guys, those 2 guys, to get back, because I was out there by myself and I was getting unnerved.
Yeah.
By that, being out there by myself like that. So.
And how many people did you say are part of the group, the research group?
Well, I would have to sit here and try to count on my hands, but probably I'm thinking we're getting close to 15, probably 15 people now. We've had a couple of new people join us. We have a couple of interesting guys on our team. They're both retired law enforcement.
Uh-huh.
One of the guys, he has his own website on Facebook, and he's actually, I guess, what you call a data miner.
Mm-hmm.
His thing is he's been collecting Bigfoot reports, and he basically is trying to profile this thing like you would profile a serial killer
Uh-huh.
with all the information he's collected. His name is Val Savala, and he's a retired homicide detective. And one of the other guys, David, he's also a retired police officer. He's one of the other researchers on the team, and they both have had encounters with this thing, experiences.
Wow, it's really something when you hear about law enforcement having their own experiences.
Yeah, we've got a guy on the team, Ernest Fargo. He is, Ernie is, he's like our track collector. He's got quite a large track collection of his own, casts. And he also collects books. He's like a encyclopedia of Bigfoot. He has like a wealth of knowledge. And then we've got James, the Caller Kid. He's probably James is the youngest guy on our team. He just turned 21. So we're all different ages. We've got younger people, and we've got people that are retired now from their everyday jobs.
Okay, so you got quite a collection of people.
Yeah, we've got a good diversity going there. Great bunch of people. I trust these people with my life when I'm out in the woods. I know I'm not going to have a problem getting any backup out there or something.
That's good.
Something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like the medical person. I'm the nurse, so I got elected to be the medical person on the team. In case something happens, I guess if somebody gets a cut or something, God forbid, I have to deal with a gunshot wound or something like that. But, it could happen. We're out in the woods, and for the most part, we kind of stay out of the woods. At least we have so far, during rifle season on state land. You've got the hunters out there, and then there's bow hunting season. So we're all kind of laying a little bit low right now.
Yeah.
For safety reasons, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And you told me you had some UFO sightings?
Yeah, that's like a whole different ball game. I'm not the only one in my group that have had those type of experiences, but yeah, when I was younger, I've had probably numerous strange experiences with that. Most of it was just basically seeing lights, odd lights in the sky with odd movements. Not anything you can, that you can put your finger on. Mm-hmm. But I have had a couple of strange encounters. Probably the biggest one that stands out is what happened to me right in Sanford, Michigan. I actually, at the time, I was living up in north of Gladwin, in a place called Lindy Lake. It's kind of in between Gladwin and Houghton Lake. And I was here in Sanford at my parents' house to do my laundry. It was a Friday night. And if you want me to go into this, I will. It's kind of a big, long story. But I was here to do laundry on a Friday night, and I got my laundry done, and I collected my laundry, and I put it in the car, and I was going to drive home back up there north of Gladwin. At the time, I didn't have a washing machine at my own place. I was living there with my fiance at the time. And on the way home, I went down, I don't know if you're familiar with Midland County, the towns of Sanford and Coleman. Mm-hmm. At the time, I took, I guess they call it Old 10 or Old US 10. It's the old road, highway that runs like in between Sanford and Coleman. Mm-hmm. And I was going toward Coleman, and when I got up to about 8 Mile, I think it was 8 Mile Road, There was this great big white light that came off of 8 Mile Road, and then it turned and it started going west toward Coleman, and it was right above the trees where the train tracks were. At the time, right now, that's the rail trail, what they call the rail trail.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, the rail trail was not even there yet. It was still train tracks. And this thing was just cruising along above the trees. It was probably like the size of a big pickup truck, as far as the size goes. And I couldn't make out any details in this thing. And I'm cruising along, and here this thing is off to the left-hand side of me, up above the trees. And I'm coming up on it. It got a little ways ahead of me, and I'm coming up on it. And it's dark. It's after 9 o'clock at night. At that time, there was one car that passed me that was coming from Coleman going towards Sanford, and those people never hit their brakes. I watched in my rearview mirror to see if they'd hit their brakes, to see if they'd pull over, and they didn't. They just kept going, so I don't know if they saw this thing or not. And other than that, there was no other traffic on the road. And this thing was up there, and it's going west, and I'm going west. And my whole plan was to get to M18, and when I got to the M18 turnoff, I was going to turn right and go on M18, which takes you to Beaverton and Gladwin. That was my route home. And this thing sped up, and it started getting ahead of me, so I sped up. And it slowed down, so I slowed down. And it sped up, and so I sped up again to catch up to it. And it kind of went like that until I got to the M18 turnoff. And right before I got to the M18 turnoff, this thing just came to a stop. So I hit my brakes, and I kind of came to a stop. It came to a stop. And at that point in time, I realized, I just got this little voice inside of my head telling me, you need to get away from here. You need to get away from this thing. This is not a good situation. Mm-hmm. I started panicking at that point. And I just realized, I didn't even have a cell phone back then when all this happened. I have a cell phone now, but I didn't have a cell phone back then. So and nobody was in the car with me. So I had no way of contacting anybody if anything, bad started happening. So I kind of started panicking, and I kind of started freaking out, and I decided that I was just going to get going and go ahead and make my turn, which I did, and I made my turn and started going north on M18, but at the whole time I did that, I'm watching, I'm trying to watch in my side view mirror, and I'm trying to turn around and look back to see what this thing is doing, and it just, it started back up again, and it continued to cruise west and to go on toward Coleman. And I was a little bit relieved, but it was a scary ride home after that. And when I got home, I was by myself. My boyfriend at the time was not there. He was up north. And I think I had a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder from that. When I got home, I'm closing the blinds, I'm locking my door. I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting these thoughts in my head, what if that thing followed me home? Because I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
You couldn't make out any details in this thing. And the thing that was astounding about that thing was the light was so bright on that, I felt like it wasn't right, because I felt like it should have blinded me. Uh-huh. And you ever notice with the lights, if you're from Texas, you probably went to the high school football games, the lights that they have at the end of a football field, those big spotlights, that's kind of what it reminded me of. Like, they're super, super bright, but it didn't blind me. And it just made I think about it, and I still think about it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I still can't make any sense out of how something could be that bright, but yet I could still see it, and I wasn't blinded by its light.
Yeah, I wonder what it was doing.
Well, I will tell you, and all also, I will tell you the shape of this light, and that's all it was to me, was a light. It was so bright, you couldn't make out any details of this thing. Like, you couldn't see any, like details of the craft itself or anything. All you could see was the shape of it, and it was kind of the shape of almost like the shape of a football or like a lemon drop. And that doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of what the shape of it was. And that was the end of that night. However, a couple of months later, when I went back to Sanford to my parents' house again one night to do laundry, my mom and I were upstairs in the living room, and I had not said anything to my parents about what had happened. My parents, there's a lot of things that have happened to me that I have not told my parents about, because simply for the fact that I'm not looking to add any more gray hair, to their heads. I don't want to freak my parents out. My dad, he worries a lot. He's like the type of person that worries about everything. Uh-huh. And so there's a lot of stuff I don't tell my parents. At the time, I didn't. I probably tell them more now than I did at that age. This was over 20 years ago when this happened. This was quite a while ago. However, that night when I was up there with my mom, I went to the front. They have a 2-story house that sits inside a hill, and there's a balcony, like a deck upstairs, outside deck. And I went out on the deck, and I looked to the west, and there above the tree line was the same thing, or at least it looked like the same thing that I had saw about 3 months earlier. And it was once again above the tree tops, and it was cruising from the north to the south, and it was just like at cruising speed. I don't know how old you are, but at one time it was legal to cruise up and down the street. You could go downtown and cruise, at 30 miles an hour. You could cruise the strip, uptown. All the kids did it after the football game and stuff like that. And the whole idea was to kind of, not to go too fast so you could see everybody, And that's what this thing was doing. It was just kind of cruising along above the treetops, about 30 miles an hour. And I almost felt like it was looking for something. That's kind of the feeling I got. I mean, it's just a feeling I got. I can't prove, I don't have any scientific data to prove what this thing was or what it was doing. But I kind of felt like it wasn't natural. What I was seeing was just another one of these things that I couldn't explain, but I kind of felt like it was a little nefarious, like it didn't really have good intentions. That's the way I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like it was looking for something or looking for somebody. I almost felt like maybe it was looking for somebody to pick up or something. That's kind of the way I felt about it.
Wow, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, so I yelled at my mom. My mom likes to read. And when she's reading her books, the TV can be on, and my dad and people can be in there talking, and she won't hear a word that you say to her when she's reading a book, because that's what she does. She likes to read. And she had a book, and she was reading, and I started yelling at her. I come back in the house. I said, come on. I said, you got to come out here. I want you to see something. I want you to see this. And she just kind of ignored me because she's reading her book. Uh-huh. And I kept at her, and finally she's like, what do you want? And she put her book down. So she gets up and comes to the door. Well, I'm standing out there waiting for her to come out there because I want her to see it. And this thing went behind a cloud bank. And by the time she got out there, this thing went behind a cloud bank and it was gone. You never saw it again. I never saw it again. So she didn't get to see it. So she's like, well, what did you call me out here for? She's kind of agitated and like, what is it that you want me to see? And there's nothing there for her to see because it was gone.
Yeah.
So that was that was frustrating for me because the last time I saw that thing, and I say that thing, like I said, I don't know if it was the same thing I saw before, but it looked like it.
Yeah.
I was frustrated because I wanted somebody else to see it too.
Yes.
Not just me. And I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me. And her oldest daughter one summer when they came up for the summer here from Oklahoma. Her oldest daughter was with me one summer, and we went for a drive up to Wixom Lake, or I should say what used to be Wixom Lake. The lake is gone now, you know. But we were, it was a sunny afternoon, and I was driving, and I had her with me, and we went for a drive up there, and we were crossing the bridge up there, and we saw a silver disc up above the lake, up in the sky. And she saw it first, and she's like, Aunt Linda, what is that? And I'm looking up through the windshield, and here's this big, bright silver disc up in the sky. And it's like there, and then all of a sudden, poof, it was like gone. And we have no explanation for that. She saw it, I saw it. There's people out there water skiing on the lake. They were on their pontoons. And I've seen that thing twice now up there in Gladwin County. I was with one of my guy friends one morning up there in that same area in Beaverton. And him and I saw it about 9 o'clock in the morning. It looked like the same thing. And it was kind of cruising along up there. And he was driving, and I made him look at it. And he's like, what in the hell is that? And I'm like, I don't know, but I wanted you to see it because I see it. Do you see it? He's like, I see it, but I don't want to talk about that. So that was the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
With him, he didn't want to.
And you think the other one that you saw, were they pretty similar to the one you saw at night?
The one that we saw in the daytime?
Yes.
Well, you could see them. You could see that it was a silver disc, like a silver, the color was silver, and it was like a disc-shaped object. You know, it was a disc-shaped object. And it was, when we saw it above the lake, it was like just hovering there. And then all of a sudden it was gone. So, and it was a beautiful blue sky out. And we can't even say that it went behind a cloud because there were no clouds. We couldn't explain it. We couldn't explain like where it went.
So it just vanished.
How did it disappear? It's there and then it's gone.
I wonder if it was the same thing.
I don't know, because the thing that I saw at night, that was at night, and to me it was a light. You know, I just saw a really super bright light, and you could see the shape of the light. It was like the shape of a light, and that's all you could see. You couldn't actually see any details of what I'm thinking must have been some type of craft. I mean, it's in the sky and it's flying, so I'm thinking it was some type of craft. It certainly wasn't an airplane. It certainly wasn't a helicopter. I rolled my window down, when I hit my brakes a couple different times. I rolled my window down because I wanted to see, if I could hear it. And it was completely silent. It made no noise at all, which made no sense to me. It was just something else that didn't make any, sense to me, that I couldn't hear it when I'm right next to it. I'm on the road and it's above the train tracks. So if it was some type of aircraft, airplane, I don't know, helicopter, I'm trying to think of what else it could have been, like an ultralight. If it was something like that, you would have thought that with no traffic on the road, I should have been able to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really odd. You didn't hear nothing. Huh.
No, it was completely silent. Very strange.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, and so this summer, a bunch of us, some of the people in my group, the Lost Cryptids, some of us were up camping in Mayo, and we had a nice fire going on the riverbank. And that whole weekend, we all saw a whole bunch of crazy lights up there in the sky, darting back and forth and cruising over our campsite. A couple of the people were there on Thursday night before I got up there, and they had described to me how they saw one great big, a big light craft that came right over their campsite. And then it cruised on. But yeah, that was a whole weird experience too up there that weekend in Mayo. Bunch of things went on up there.
Have y'all ever had any UFO sightings coincide with Bigfoot sightings?
I can't really say. I don't know. That weekend in Mayo that I just told you about, we were there. That's what we were there for. We were there to go out in the woods and look for structures, look for tracks, hoping to find, Bigfoot, some type of signs that Bigfoot was there, that there was something there. And I actually was by myself Saturday night. Everybody else took off in the woods, and I was by myself around the fire, and there were some really odd things that went on, and I just totally freaked out because I was there by myself on the riverbank, and we had the fire was going, and I started hearing these noises, clicking noises, like down. At first, I thought it was coming from the riverbank. Like our fire was like right on the. I guess I want to say it's like a cliff. It's like a real steep riverbank right there, and it kind of sounded like these clicking noises were coming down by the water,
Mm-hmm.
like down the bank. But it was pitch black out there, and I couldn't see anything. I kept shining my flashlight around, and I could hear my friends off in the distance in the woods because one of the girls, Sherry, she made a call. She did a call, and she actually got a call response on the other side of the river. It sounded like it was quite a ways away. It sounded like it was at least a good mile away, but she had made that call a little bit earlier. And then I'm standing around the fire. I've got these clicking noises, and all of a sudden on the other side of the riverbank, I hear a big sploosh, like something had jumped into the river from the other side. And not even a minute after that, I hear another sploosh, but it's down a ways. And you could hear these things walking across the river, like they're coming to my side of the river. Okay, so at that point, I'm really freaking out. I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? I mean, something's going on. There's something coming to my side of the riverbank. I don't know what it is. At first, I thought, oh, it's probably a bear. But when I heard the second splash, not only that, when they were walking, whatever these things were, when they were walking across the water, they sounded bipedal, and so that freaked me out. I admit I was freaked out at this point. Mm-hmm. And then while these things are coming across the riverbank, I look up and here comes this weird light, and it's up in the sky. It's right above the trees, and it comes right up over our campsite, and then it just stops there and it's hovering. So this is all going on at the same time. And so I just started screaming for my friends to come back. Well, they did not come back right away. I guess they heard me, but I guess they thought I was trying to say something. But what I was trying to say is get back. What I was saying was get back here, to camp. Yeah, I didn't have a gun either. I admit I was not armed. I didn't have a gun. So when these things hit the riverbank, these two things hit the riverbank, they came up on the riverbank, and you could hear them thrashing around on the riverbank, and there were trees breaking and branches snapping, and they made all kinds of racket coming up the riverbank. So I'm waiting to see something, and I kept shining my flashlight like all around. Are you still there? So yeah, I'm waiting to see what these things are that are coming up on my side of the, on the river. I'm waiting to see something because I'm thinking the way these things, the noise they're making, breaking sticks and everything, that I'm about to get a visit, right in camp there. They stayed out of my flashlight range and the range of the firelight. I could not see anything. All I could do was hear them. And they moved across the path on either side, one on either side of my campsite, and moved off across and into the woods. Into the woods where my friends were at the time.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm freaking out. And I was probably there, I want to say maybe another 15 minutes after that before my friends showed back up to camp. And to make a long story short, they didn't hear or see anything. As far as the two things that came into the woods, they didn't see or hear anything when they were out there. And at that point, I actually was in shock. And two of my guy friends had to take me to my car, and I insisted on locking myself in my car for the rest of the night. So it was kind of traumatic for me.
Uh-huh.
And I could not get to my car at the time when all this was going on. I thought about making a run for my car, but in this particular site where we were camped, you could not pull your vehicle up to the campsite. You had to park your vehicle, and then you had to get out and walk down this trail that went along the riverbank to get to the campsite where you actually, pitched the tent and everything.
Oh, okay.
So in order for me to get to my car, I would have had to cross paths with the first thing that got up on the bank, the one that came across first, whatever that was. I would have had to cross paths with that. And then I would have been away from the fire, and I didn't have a gun. And so I made the decision I probably would be safer if I stayed by the fire because, just in case if it was a bear, which I really doubt that it was a bear. One of the guys in my group, he's had some experience with bear. He was a bow hunter. He bow hunted bear. He does not think there should have been any reason for two bears to be together like that. In that area like that. That would have been just kind of, I guess that's kind of strange.
Uh-huh.
Bears don't hang out with each other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. So and that was that. So that whole weekend, like I said, we had a bunch of strange lights. Some of the lights were way up in the sky. There's no way you could possibly, tell what they were. Yeah. All you could do is look at their movements and see how the movements of these things were odd and not normal. Not like an airplane, or something like that.
Yeah. A big combination of many different things all at once.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever had an experience like that, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And I did tell them before I go back to that place in particular, I'm not going back there without a gun. I'm not going back there unarmed. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm certainly going to make sure I don't stay by the fire by myself.
What do you think Bigfoot is? What is your opinion?
I think that it's. I definitely think it's a flesh and blood creature. I don't want to say flesh and blood, but I mean, I believe that it's, that it is flesh and blood because of the evidence, the track evidence of the tracks and stuff we find. Uh-huh. And people, the sightings, what people describe, what they see. So I definitely think it is flesh and blood, but whether it has what people would say paranormal abilities or extrasensory perception, I can't, personally, I don't want to discount that. I try to keep an open mind. And here's another reason why a lot of people don't bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up. Is there's a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people who are clairvoyant. They have ESP, and when it comes to people, it's I don't think it's considered abnormal or not within the realm of possibility for people to have these type of abilities. And a lot of scientists and a lot of people believe it's very possible that we all have these, we all have ESP, we all have these type of abilities, but maybe they're just not developed in some people as they are in other people, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a far stretch to imagine that people aren't the only ones, I guess, that have these abilities.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I know a lot of people, if you start talking about the woo, what they say, the woo, they'll shut right down on you. They just, they don't even want to discuss that. But there's so many reports out there that people have made, seeing craft in the sky, and then 20 minutes later, there's a Bigfoot on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, it's kind of hard to discount all these reports because there's so many of them.
Yeah, it is, and and I've talked to a lot of people, doing what I do, and I hear, I don't want to say it's a common thing, but it's just coincidental how, a lot of people will see lights and then either have a sighting afterwards or have a sighting before and then start seeing lights, and
absolutely,
it's just, I mean, it's. It's rare. I don't hear about it often, but it's still coincidental, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's very strange, and and I've heard a lot of things where, like what you call the woo woo. I do believe there might be some supernatural aspects to it, and even if it's something physical, it's so beyond our reasoning that we perceive it as supernatural.
Right.
And I don't know if you've heard, anybody else's theories. I've heard that some people think they're possibly Nephilim, part angel, part human, and have interdimensional capabilities. That's one thing I hear quite often. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Yes, I've heard that hypothesis.
And then I hear where they're just interdimensional and they have cloaking abilities where they can make themselves invisible, kind of like Predator.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, I try to stay kind of neutral in the subject because I don't. I'm no expert. Nobody, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to speak to anybody from DNR that might have talked a little bit about it.
I have not personally, but I do have a fellow researcher. He's not with my group. Real nice guy. He lives in Michigan. I have been out in the field with him a few times, and he actually did have the opportunity to speak to a couple of DNR about that subject, about Bigfoot and sightings. In that particular area, recreation area where some of us like to go. We like to go there. We like to camp there. And he's had them pretty much flat out tell him they know that they exist and they know that they're there. This is like a one-on-one conversation this guy has had with them. Was it official? No. Probably, I'm guessing if they were, if they had to say it in front of a supervisor or if they were put on the spot, I'm guessing they would probably deny the whole conversation that they had with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
But he's talked to a couple of them in that area about it, and they pretty much told him that they know that they're there, they know they're there, and they have to deal with it. That's the way it is.
Wow.
So it's and what I don't think the conversation went much further than that.
Yeah.
They're only going to say what they want to say at the time. They're not going to tell you much.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you everyone for listening, and I wanted to give a special thanks to Linda for sharing her encounter. If you'd like to be on Hide and Seek Archives, you can email me at hideandseekarchives@gmail.com. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over during sun. This is to end in fire, then we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, oh, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. High. If we should die tonight, we should all die together. Raise a glass of wine for the last time, calling out, Father, oh, prepare as we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. Now I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees, and I see fire hollow in soul. I see fire that you remember me. Oh, should my people fall, then surely I'll do the same. Confined in mountain holes, we got too close to the flame, calling out, Father, hold fast and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. Now I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire